Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 54 of the Lorethrough, and today we will be starting Caelid, which is exciting. A note about the word Caelid, it's derivative of a Gaelic word, Caeli, which is roughly spelled Celidih, but you say Caeli, right? And it means a social gathering or a festival, which is neat because we've heard from Blythe as well as from Alexander that there is the Radon Festival going on in the far reaches of Caelid at Redmane Castle. So hopefully we get to explore some of that. It won't be today, but that will be in the episodes soon to come. In Caelid, from the get-go, as soon as we are on the fringes here, we start to notice that the ground changes quite drastically from pleasant green of Limgrave to this sad sort of salmon color. So that is something that we get to look into today. Before I forget, though, I forgot to read the item description for the Carrion Knight's shield. Right? So look at that. A teardrop-shaped, medium-sized shield embedded with blue glintstones, carried by knights who served the Carrion royal family. Excels when facing magic or holy attacks. Just who were these knights preparing to fight? Well, we know who they were preparing to fight. We understand that the Carrion knights are loyal, of course, to the House of Caria at Caria Manor, and that they had to fight the forces of Leyndell in the First Liurnian War, and they had to fight the forces of the Academy and the Cuckoo Knights in the Second Liurnian War. So it's kind of funny how the shield poses that question, and that question is answered throughout Liurnia as we go around the area. And a second thing I wanted to show off is I wanted to show off the Queen's bracelets, Renala's bracelets, right, specifically. And if you look real close there, on the pinky finger is a ring. Kinda interesting. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Is that a wedding ring? Do Carians wear wedding rings on their right hand, on their pinky finger? It doesn't look like there's a ring on the left hand, so. But still, there's a nice little thing there. And yeah. It's not even really mentioned in the item description anyways, so. Nothing to worry about there. Okay, well, let's get up the hill and not waste any more time. Over here we have a stone sword monument. Let's read that. Lord Godfrey, at last at the end of his campaign, his golden armies unvanquished and unbowed, yet finds grace lost, tattered and faded. So it seems that his final conquest happened here at the far edge of Limgrave, just on the border of Caelid, and this is where he lost grace, where he became a tarnished, and we descended, or the tarnished followed him out of the Lands Between. They were hounded from the Lands Between, and we are one of those descendants of the tarnished. Here we have a church building. It's kind of interesting. There's more stone swords here than I think on any other monument. There might be one later in the Altus Plateau, but they're all over the place. They're on both sides of the road, and there's a good amount of them. Maybe this was a more momentous event, perhaps. More swords equals more history. Who knows? But we come up to the church here, and we notice that the bricks are burning, which is interesting. Bricks don't burn, and we get invaded by Anastasia, the Tarnished Eater. And we give her the quick parry, but she's dressed like a finger maiden, and she has a big old butcher knife. So she is a reoccurring style of character that FromSoft likes to have. The initial iteration of her that I'm aware of is Maneater Mildred from Dark Souls 1. There might have been an Executioner lady in Demon Souls, but I don't think that's really where this came from. But Maneater Mildred was a test character by one of the developers, I believe. And she wore a sack on her face and had a big old butcher knife and the plank shield or something like that. And the developers liked the idea so much that they stuck her in as an actual invader. And then I don't remember any rendition of her in Dark Souls 2, but in Dark Souls 3, when you're in, like, oh, what is it called? I should have looked it up, but it's the area that has all the corvids all the weird crowmen. Partway through that area on your way to the swamp, your first gridded swamp in Dark Souls 3, you run into another lady who also has the butcher knife and is a savage. This is a more respectful version of the character, to say the least. Alright, I think we're done toying with her. We can kill her now. Just dodging the whole time while giving this diatribe. Goodness me, the things you, dear viewer, put up with. And here we find the Sacred Scorpion Charm, which is our first of any of the Scorpion Charms. A talisman carried by assassins who strike unseen, patterned on a scorpion freshly shed of its exoskeleton, its claws seizing a heart with blessed glow. Raises holy attack power, but lowers damage negation. And sure enough, if we look at our statuses there, everything's about in the 20s, except for our fire and lightning resistance are 30 and 10 respectively, right? And if we slap on that holy talisman and look at our resistances, it looks like everything dropped by about... Ooh. It looks like it's across the board different amounts, but it looks like it could drop anywhere between 8 and... well, I would say 8 and 10%? Maybe 6 and 10%. I don't know what the actual number is. And I think the number is different in PvP than it is in PvE, but I digress. Somebody knows the real number. Either way, it drops your absorptions a substantial amount. Here we find the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook and the Missionaries Cookbook number 3. And let's take a look at what those give us respectively. Okay, so the Warriors Cookbook gives us poison pots, roped poison pots, and poison bone darts. All very good. Almost integral, I would say. Maybe not integral. These items can make a future encounter much easier. And then from the Missionary's Cookbook, Silver Pickled Foulfoot, which is item discovery. It's kind of nice that it's here on the edge of Caelid, so you could get that pretty early if you wanted to make the item that boosts item discovery. However, you have to probably either fight Anastasia or avoid her altogether. Alright. Well, let's keep exploring Caelid. So it seems interesting that this building is perpetually burning, and we don't know exactly why that is just yet. We don't know much about Caelid. And we've only run into Scarlet Rot on one occasion before this, and that was the Clean Rot Night in the Stillwater Cave, I believe is where they were at. So we come over here, and there we see the Colosseum where the Pot God was in front of. Oh, there he is. He just spawned in. So we've already been to that portion of Caelid. Ooh. My goodness. Getting bopped. There we are. That's a-okay. But here, on our way down the slope, we have all these tree guardians, and they have a little more growing out of them than it looked like they had growing out of them on the Weeping Peninsula. Those ones felt bare-backed. I could be wrong. But these ones have a rotting mound growing out of their back, which is quite unfortunate for their nice dress. I'm curious, can I backstab this fool? I can. They are backstabbable. And I love the way those heavy attacks look. Ooh, I didn't think I was going to get that parry. And we see a minor Erd tree and a bunch of pots. Big pots. A Guardian Sword Spear. I didn't even have to farm for that one. Alright, this is a... We see up ahead an Erd Tree Guardian. I think this is our third. No. Fourth. We fought two in Liurnia, one in the Weeping Peninsula, but this one looks wrong. He's covered in, it almost looks like fungal growths reaching out, maybe even coral. Very disorderly appearance compared to the other ones. And he even has a different staff. The Erd Tree staff that they had before, it kind of looked like a golden half sphere. And this one looks like a silvery branching tree. And we don't know what that symbol is just yet. Also, this enemy is made of wood. Do I have anything that does fire? Have I neglected fire in my attempts at wizardry? Yeah, it looks like I have. Oh no. That's okay. We'll take an axe to this tree, because we are a very rude individual. And that should do just nicely. What's in this? Yeah, why not? I can't see a darn thing. Oh, I went for one attack too many. Learn from my mistakes. Not too tough of a fight. Then again, maybe we're a little high of level. Not too high, though. And here it does those projectiles. Oh, dear. Ooh, I'm so glad that thing missed. That might have ended us. That's okay. And the putrid avatar is dealt with. Enemy felled. And it gives us 9,600 runes, and the Green Burst Crystal tier, and the Flame Shrouding Cracked tier. So I believe the Green Burst one, is that the heal mana or stamina over time? It is. So the resulting concoction temporarily boosts stamina recovery speed. And the other one, Flame Shrouding Cracked tier, a percentage damage buff to fire attacks. So we now have the whole menagerie of magic, fire, lightning, and holy buffs. Though we have the magic one because, well, magic's what we use most of the time. So if you come out here to this northern edge of the cliff, there's this tree root. Kind of looks more like a branch that's just reaching out here. And at the end of it, you will find a tasty cracked pot. That's one I missed for a good long while in my first character. Didn't even know it was here. But thoroughly examining the environment is a good thing. So this Erd tree doesn't seem to be dead. It still has gold leaves. And it still has a sort of color to it. I feel bad for all these pots, though. Likely drained to give their essence to the minor Erd tree. And here we see a dungeon. Now, I know that this dungeon is here, and I think I remember what the boss is for this dungeon, but I don't know if I recall what the dungeon looks like. It's been a while since I've done Caelid. It's kind of the funny thing about my memories. I remember a good amount about the early game, and a good amount about the end game, and a little bit of the mid game, which in my mind is, well, Caelid's probably still not mid game, but Caelid's dungeons and parts of Mount Gelmir dungeons escape me from time to time. Alright, well, our nicely organized inventory has been ruined by the donation of that tree spear, so we will get rid of that. Okay. Oh, and you needed a reminder, those tree guardians, the little guys with the spears out back, they gave themselves to become everlasting wood monsters to protect the minor Erd tree and the Erd trees. So that's the little lore flashcard for you. So coming down here, is this one that has something under the elevator? It is! Oh, it's this dungeon. Okay, I recall now. So here we have a glovewort. And if I recall in here, we have some enemies. And we have Scarlet Rot, which we should be careful in because I don't think we have a cure for it. Kind of miserable for an early dungeon. We have all these goo boys. We have imps up above throwing pots down. But you can run in, grab everything, run out, and be fine. And I think this dungeon wants you to explore the both sides before you get all the way down there to underneath the elevator. Ooh. I do need to practice my parries, always important. The funny thing about parrying is when you get into online, the ping can completely disrupt your ability to parry properly. Or even get backstabs. If somebody's playing on their Burger King Wi-Fi, it can be very difficult to land certain attacks. Even spacing can be difficult. People get phantom range, Because on their screen they hit you, but on your screen they didn't, and then it just counts if you weren't rolling. It also means that when somebody is rolling, it feels like they get an extra window of time to dodge your attack just because it's a little desynced. Thanks to the ping. And so some people are almost impossible to hit on high latency. And so that's why a lot of people will have a status weapon of some kind or a means of implementing status, because ghost hits can accrue status and give you a means of defeating enemies you can't otherwise hit thanks to latency. So even on my strength builds or on my dex builds, I'll usually have some sort of means of getting status off on the enemy. Easy way of doing that on dex and strength builds is just put poisonous mist on a physically infused weapon and you'll do just fine. So some people go out of their way and get like 20 dexterity and put a ant spur rapier on their build, which I guess we haven't seen that weapon. I probably shouldn't talk about it, but it is a rot accumulating rapier, and it takes 20 dexterity. A little steep if you're not a dex build, but not too bad. And they'll just make it whatever physical infusion they want, or even standard if they're like a caster, a pure faith or int build, and then they'll just carry a little bit of rot grease around and they'll smother that on the rapier, and they have a means of doing a very dangerous status type to enemies even if that's not what their build's centered around. Usually in instances of really high latency or somebody's just bugging you. Sometimes people are just too annoying to fight fair. But it is a video game and you are allowed to do what you want. Alright, Imp Head Wolf. New item. So we've found before the imp cat head, or the cat head imp thing, and that gives you 2 points of intelligence. The wolf variant gives you 2 points of endurance, which is, I don't know if it's always worth it. It's a heavy hat. It weighs 8.1, but it gives you 10 poise, so it's okay on the poise to weight distribution. There's usually at least one, if not a whole set of items in every Souls game, in armor-wise, minus maybe Bloodborne, where there's just a set of armor that gives way too little poise for how heavy the darn thing is. And those items always crack me up. In this game, it's the pumpkin head for sure. Yeah, the pumpkin head, it weighs like 12.3 but only gives 11 poise, when there's other hats of similar poise. They give like 3 or 4 more points of poise and weigh either the same or less. But you can get the pumpkin head relatively early, so maybe. This looks a tad high. Actually, that's probably survivable. Alright. Making okay time this episode. Defeated one boss already. And we're on our way to the next one. What's my mana at? 1116. I'm starting to think I need to start carrying the sacrificial axe around, so I can get a little smidge more mana, or use none, because I need my exact amount of mana to summon my friend. That's okay. We got spare potions. We'll just drink one. It's fine. So entering this fight, we have 2 burial watchdogs, one with a sword and one with a staff. And if you throw enough daggers at one, they'll start smacking each other. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Sword boy's almost done with the staff boy. And now they're just breathing fire at each other. Wow, that trivialized that fight. And let's give him 1 power attack, 2 power attack, and finish him off with a good crit. Burial Watchdog is actually a 3-headed cat. FromSoft, get your translation department in order. And we get the Mad Pumpkinhead ashes. So, Crystal Darts, get some before you come here. I had a friend attempt this dungeon at a relatively low level. I think he came here probably level 20 or 30. Probably no more than +3 weapons. I have no idea who Lutel is fighting, but she is fighting for her life right now. Swinging at nothing in the corner over there. The fact she hasn't disappeared entirely is kind of odd. Can you get Alzheimer's if you're headless? Serious question. Asking for a friend. My friend Lutel. She's in trouble. But yeah, so my other friend, not Lutel, came there, level 20 or 30, and just that fight is brutal if they aren't slapping each other. It's a very mean fight. Okay. Alright, so we're going to race back up the hill and get our real site of grace. The one that we'll use considerably more. The one in the Smoldering Church feels like one of those transitory graces that you touch once and you move by relatively quickly. I should read the Spirit Ashes. I did just get those after all. Alright, ashen remains in which spirits yet dwell, used to summon the spirit of a mad pumpkinhead. Spirit of a mad soldier with a large, brawny physique. Though he has stifled his panic with the dark confines of his helmet, he rampages as if driven man would agitated by bloodshed or the humming of insects. Ugh, so maybe he was a part of Caelid in his life, and it feels like a place where a humming of insects would be. Anyone who's played this game and noticed the ambient music, or just the ambience of Caelid, the shrill violins are very reminiscent of bugs buzzing about. It's very well made. It's actually kind of funny. I have a brother who, that's his favorite music or ambience in the whole game, is Caelid's, like, white noise, the bugs buzzing. It's weird, I don't get it, but it's well designed. This mad soldier is all that is left of a broken gladiator. Okay, so he was a gladiator. Maybe he competed in one of these Colosseums that we've found. The one in Caelid here and the other one in Limgrave. So here on our way up the path, the road is blocked by this smoldering wall. It kind of looks like haphazard brickwork, kind of thrown together as fast as you could. Is it enchanted? Is this a fiery enchantment? Is it a chemical reaction? Not sure. But this is our second time seeing the smoldering bricks, smoldering architecture. And it seems that maybe it is to block something. Maybe they're trying to burn something away here. In here we have an item and a corpse, Shack of the Rotting, and don't you know the rotting is here? I shouldn't have gone for the charge attack. Oh, he almost rotted me. There we go. And we get 5 preserving boluses, very kind early on. There's a sludge pile there and another corpse here. So I did upgrade the carrion sword a little bit. It is now +5 for a somber weapon, and the character level is 75. So we gained 15 levels since last time. Not too bad. Here we have a horrifying crow monster, and it looks like there's a handful of them. One there, another one in the distance, and they're guarding a little tomb in the ground. And I remember the first time I saw one of these things, I was a little spooked by it because it's unnerving. It's got a beak, right? It almost looks like it's looking at us now. And it's got eyelids, and it's got the nose hole, and then it's got teeth on the beak. That's not normal. Birds don't do that. Daffy Duck or Donald Duck might do that. They might have teeth inside their beak, but that's not normal. That's a fantasy. That's fictitious. Donald Duck is not real. He does not know your location at this present moment. Do not fear. So let's see what this ghost has to say. It's rotting. Everything. Rotting scarlet. The very earth that Caelid rests upon, and Celia, town of sorcery. I'm glad he gives us its title. The end is nigh for us all. Well, we know there's a town of sorcery here now, which is very nice. We may have heard mention of Celia in one other place. I don't recall exactly where. If I was a more prepared individual, I would know, but I think it's been mentioned once. But either way, a town of sorcery, so that's great for us. More opportunities to learn magic, right? We hope. Okay. Alright. So our first stop will be right down the road. He didn't see that coming. Alright. Let's get down the road. I think I have an opportunity up ahead to actually show off some sorceries. I should probably do that. Yeah, we're not going to use Thop's Barrier for a little bit, though I like the spell. We'll remove the light spell for a moment. Don't worry, we will put it back on for flavor. I don't believe I ever had a chance to show off Gavel of Haima or Cannon of Haima. I now have the stats for them. I don't think I had the stats previously. Oh, and this guy's back. Feels bad, but we gotta put him down. And the sad sludge pile as well. And here we're on the upper portion, above the minor Erd tree. And down the road is this terrifying group. I don't know how long it takes them, but I think they travel the road for a fair while until the edge of town. And, like, it's hard to lock on anyone in particular. Oh, a bunch are stopping because they see us. But Cannon of Haima, huge area effect. In fact, it almost killed all of them. The fact that I am so close and it didn't kill them makes me quite sad. Heck, we could probably throw the fan daggers and kill a bunch of them. Just blindly throwing this thing. Oh, and the Gavel of Haima. This guy might try to grab. We'll go for it. Big ol' hammer. It can smack twice. Or chain into itself twice. Gavel of Haima, it does okay damage for its speed. It's mostly great at controlling groups, I feel. I'm glad these sword spear dudes take a moment to get out of the ground. It's quite helpful. And a guardian garb. And they're guarding a Mikola lily by this tree. Or perhaps they're just guarding this cliff. I thought there was something else over here. Oh well. Not important. Oh, there is a statue of Rosas up here. Which is very nice of him. Cursed delinquents. Oh, come on. I want to interact with the statue, not the message on the ground. I'm not getting any other message. Anyway, he looks a little more tarnished in color, like green oxidized, I should say. I can't get the prompt. Oh, well. We've already done the dungeon, so who cares? Alright. Well, let's get to the next points quickly. Because we are running out of time, and I want this episode to end concisely. So over here, we have our good friend, the Beetle. And we're here to mess the Beetle up. We're here to really ruin the Beetle's day. And here we have these horrible dog monsters. Ooh. And the Great Bow does well against them. And they're scary. They're scary monsters. They really spooked me my first time through this area. Understandably so. But if you hit them in the head, when you can... Shucks. You have a good chance to stumble them. Well, maybe if you're using a better weapon than I am in terms of posture damage. But you gotta hit them in the head, and their poise is relatively low. In fact, a better way to show it off would probably be the Misericord. Because Misericord does fantastic posture damage because we put Carrion Phalanx on it. Yeah. And here we have some soldiers. They are wearing a new outfit. Mostly red. It looks like it has a lion on it. But these are not Cuckoo soldiers, and these are not Godric soldiers. Kind of makes it nice when they get to recolor the soldiers, which creates new enemy types, essentially. Some consider it lazy. Considering that they're all diverging cultures, I ain't too mad about it. And in here we find the Berserk manga. I mean Guts' greatsword. I mean the greatsword. Let's read its description. A coarse iron lump of an ultra greatsword mows down foes by utilizing its incredible weight. Though handling it likely requires the wielder to have surpassed the realm of merely human, it is precisely for this reason the weapon is used to slaughter even inhuman foes. And sure enough, it's in one of these carriages, so it kind of leads us to suspect that it was a gift of some variety. Horrible crow monster. And it does a fake poise break. Yeah, that's right. It fakes you out if it can. That's how horrible these crow monsters are. So if you can get Carrion Phalanx for these monsters, that's a good idea. It gives you a ranged option. You can play defensively, and after just 2 little casts, it's broken their posture. Anything else that does fantastic poise damage that's easy to land, go for that as well. Some people will use like twin great hammers with jump attacks or something like that. Anything that builds poise quickly and allows you to keep up on the enemy, great idea. Okay, and we're going to make our way down the road a little bit and deal with this dog. And sure enough, see, his posture broke pretty quickly. Man, I might run most of the zone with the Misericord after realizing how useful it is. I mean, I knew it was going to be useful. So we see here, we get to see a little more of the Scarlet Rot in action, right? We see all these funguses. Literally, they look like mushrooms. They look like coral. They look like horrible pits. I forget what the fear of holes is called, but you know what it is. And if you don't know, you're better for it. And over here is this moldering pile. It looks like other dogs. Huge, horrible T-Rex monstrosity dog, so it was eating out of that pile. So it seems that it has no qualms about cannibalism. Or recycling, for that matter. I guess it's reuse is better than recycling, so that's one for the globalist eco-green agenda, I suppose. We haven't heard about their lore yet in the Elden Ring, and, well, we never will, because I just made that up. Alright, well, that's about it for this episode, episode 54. I'll see you next time for episode 55, which is going to be grand because we're going to be clearing through more of the area and maybe unraveling the mystery that is this horrible rotten land. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.